Here is my shell scripting tutorial. I'm going to start it out with the shell script, which basically demonstrates the use of a database flat file, which is my server superstore inventory. This is my server superstore inventory, and of course, it's a comma delimited, not comma, but colon delimited file. And of course, my script to run everything for the most part goes through how I've done it. I have the file defined here as a variable file. I've converted the file into a table, replaced the colons with a vertical bar, declared a few arrays, header, the data array, row, column, response, temp, and selection, of course. And then I also declared response token, the amount of rows, and of course I exported these values in the execution environment. Of course, I used the set E so that it could separate my execution environment from local environment. I've defined a few colors, create directory function, a few functions as well. I've create directory function, delete directory function, print color function, print vertical function. This function is actually used to print the vertical that you see here, right here. Okay, it's able to print it. And as you can see, it's printed out in a very nice way. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's not used to print that. It's actually used to print the secondary option. Okay. Um, After you've selected your category. Of course, this is the greeting function, and then I have a print header function that prints the header. And this is the one that prints the header you see right now, that have the number and the category listed in blue, which is right here. Right. And of course, get response, enter a category number to get to look up, which gets the response from the user. If it's null, if it's empty, it will point you back to get response again and recursively asks again for another response. And so we initialize response token as an empty string. And of course, our exit function, if it's not exit, then of course, and if the input is empty, then of course we return you back to main. If the input is actually exit, then of course we say goodbye. Right? And of course I use this to kind of shrink and tighten up the spelling of the word exit, of course. 4-character long or quit 4 characters long. Of course, get table as well. Get table takes an input on file descriptor 1, and of course it gets the number of inputs. What it does, it reads, uses the read function to parse the table as an array, and for each line we parse, right, we get the header, and if the row is 0, right, we get the header, but if it's greater than 0, we include everything after the header row in as data into a 2-dimensional array, right? And of course we put a vertical bar next to it just so it can look clean. It's easier to parse with a vertical bar next to it. And that's it. And then of course we have our get column, which basically gets all the data that we select in that column for the category number that we choose. Of course I have a selection map here that helps to tell me which lines I need to print when you select an option, because what I've done in this capacity is to remove the duplicates, so it only shows you the duplicates within any particular it won't show you duplicates in any particular category, of course. And so I have some defined regular expressions that are custom generated as a result. And of course I have this loop that defines how we get an item. We define a regular expression using the item, remove the spaces, add a vertical bar, and then we're able to test the regular expression against the temporary item. So for the way this function works is the first item is not found, so it's false. So it never really, there's nothing in temp in the very beginning. So after the first item is entered into temp, what we do is we go through recursively and we make sure that there's no duplicates, and we only add items that are not duplicated, such thus the found equals false. If found is true, then we break the loop, right? And then we try again with a new value. We also use I have a function here called lookup item, which is looks up the item that you want to print, that line or that row. So first things first is we got to get the item number you want to look up after our categories have been selected, right? And so it goes through. Of course, we test to see if the input is 0 or the response is 0. If it is, we go back to main. If the response is an exit, then we exit, right? If the response is a number, then of course we know that the person made a selection, a number selection, and then we can subtract the response to get an index, because the index we're using starts at 0. Okay, and so then we parse our selection map with all the selections, mapping all the lines for all the values, right? And then we go through one by one, and we turn it into an array, and then one by one we go through each option, each selection option, right? And we retrieve the line number from it. We receive a search regic. We retrieve a search regic from it. And the way the selection is done is it's actually a number and the actual value, equal and the actual value. So we split using cut to remove to return the line from the regis, and then we split and return the actual value to be compared. And so our search regis and our select regis, right? And our select regis is defined from the temporary holder container that we have from all of the option that we have, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to go into this because I don't want to take so much time up. Okay, so here we go. This is our initial menu. We hit enter, we do nothing. If we want to search by generation, server generation, we press 1. It goes retrieves the server generation. Let's say we want generation 7, we press 2. And of course it prints generation 7. We hit enter again, it takes us back to our main menu. Let's say we want to select by chassis type. We select 3, and here's our chassis type printed. Let's say we want to see chassis that are towers. We select 4. Of course, there are all of our towers in our inventory again. And we press enter. We continue. Let's say we want CPU type. We go to 7. And of course, it retrieves our CPU types. No duplications. We say we want to look for Xenon 7100. We're going to go ahead and select 8. And of course, it's going to retrieve all of the inventory that has that particular Xenon 7100, which is right here, CPU type. All right, and of course, if we want to exit, or oh, by the way, if we want to see everything in the database, we press type all. There's everything. If we're not, we want to go back. We want to exit. We just hit exit, and that's it. Thank you so much. I hope that was